Hello and welcome to my DPS shortbow ranger video. In this video I'm going to show you my build for a physical damage DPS ranger utilizing the fast attack speed of the shortbow. The first and primary weapon I use in this build is the shortbow. In this weapon I put a sigil of superior strength, 30% chance on critical to gain might for 10 seconds. Because of the rapid attack pace of the shortbow, combined with our high crit chance, this does proc quite a bit. You can see anywhere from 7 to 10 might stacks maintained for a reasonable duration, especially while using quickness. So this gives us a very nice boost to our power and thus damage. My second weapon set in this build is a sword and a war horn. The sword for the evasive maneuvers it provides, and the horn primarily for Call of the Wild, although Hunter's Call does do a nice little chunk of extra damage. In the sword I have a sigil of force, in the horn hydromancy. Hydromancy actually does damage in addition to a 3-second freeze. I've seen this do 2,000 critical damage to a medium golem and 1,500 critical damage to a heavy golem. I'm not sure what the crit chance with hydromancy is based off of. I'm not sure if it's based off of your own crit chance. A non-crit against a medium will hit for about 800 versus a heavy about 600. So that's a nice little bonus you get from this sigil that's not listed in the description. Usually I enter combat with this weapon set out by default. I will use Hunter's Call on my first target and then Call of the Wild for myself and my allies, before swapping to my shortbow as my primary DPS weapon. For my armor runes I use Ogre. This gives us power, critical damage, 4% damage overall, and of course the famous Rock Dog. The Rock Dog does behave somewhat like a typical ranger pet. He will respond to your return to me and attack my target commands. He also is able to use the lick wound ability when you're in the down state. If you have a pet out and the Rock Dog is out and you activate Lick Wound, both of them will return to you and lick you. Well, that's controversial. It reses you quite fast, even faster than another player trying to res you. It's kinda hard to get that off sometimes, as you have to be down for quite a while to get the Lick Wound ability in the first place, but in certain situations it can be very useful. For my amulets, I use a Berserker's Amulet. Power, precision, vitality, and critical damage. This is somewhat of a glass cannon build. Keep in mind that I do keep additional runes, armor sets, and amulets in my inventory at all times if I feel that I'm just not performing with my glass cannon setup. I need more survivability. Maybe I can swap out to the Knight's Amulet or the Soldier's Amulet to gain those defensive stats and thus be able to stay in the fight and actually do my damage. But by default, I go for all-in damage with this build, and thus the Berserker's Amulet. For my healing and utility skills, I take Troll's Unguent for the heal skill, a very nice heal over time skill here. I use Lightning Reflexes, a Stun Break, a backwards evasive move, and Vigor for 10 seconds. Quickening Zephyr, quickness for 4 seconds. In addition to using quickness to do damage, you can also use it to spike out enemies and even revive allies, so do that if the situation calls for it. My final utility skill slot, I actually have a couple or 3 different things I take in this slot, Muddy Terrain being one of them. I am trading my survival skills to have shorter cooldowns. Muddy Terrain has a very large AoE effect, 20-second duration and only a 24-second cooldown while traded. The Immobilize is quite nice. It does help us set up our damage combo. You can immobilize an enemy, strafe to get on their side or behind them, and then unload into their back. Another skill I might take in this slot if I'm facing a lot of thieves or warriors, or maybe just any character that likes to CC you and then do a bunch of damage, is Protect Me. You can activate this while CC'd. So let's say a Bull's Charge Warrior, that's the easiest example, knocks you down and starts to cast 100 blades. If I don't have my Lightning Reflexes up to evade away, which you can do by the way from the knockdown state, I can just activate Protect Me and my pet will gladly step in and take the damage for me. If you're facing a heavy condition damage composition, Signet of Renewal can be quite good to take. Your pet will pull conditions from you and allies to itself. Once again, our pet steps in. The self-sacrifice is appreciated. And finally, for the elite, I take Rampage as 1, 20 seconds of stability, fury, and swiftness. Pretty self-explanatory. Definitely a very powerful elite for our DPS ranger. For the traits, I have 20 marksmanship, 25 skirmishing, and 20 wilderness survival, as well as 5 points in beast mastery. The first 5 points in beast mastery are amazing. Zephyr speed, gain quickness for 2 seconds when you swap pets in combat. I love quickness, I love this trait. My first trait choice in marksmanship is steady focus. Damage increases by 10% when endurance is full. We do have a couple sources of vigor in this build, as well as some mobility outside of dodge rolling. I find it's not hard to get attacks off with full endurance in fights. Obviously, as a ranger, we should be hanging out on the edge of the fight, circle strafing and avoiding getting too close to enemies because we don't have to. Another trait option you might think would be good in this slot is Keen Edge. Sharpening Stone at 75% health. I did a little bit of math, and it only takes 10 auto attacks with steady focus to surpass the damage of Keen Edge, keeping in mind that we only have 200 condition damage in this build. Another thing to consider is Keen Edge has an internal cooldown of 90 seconds, so it's not always available, whereas steady focus, our endurance just has to be full and we have that extra 10% damage. And like I said, only 10 auto attacks to surpass Keen Edge, so I think that's definitely the right choice. My next trait in marksmanship, Piercing Arrows, potentially very powerful. This causes our arrows to pierce targets in a line. You can line it up to hit multiple enemies at once, and it can be quite devastating when you can do so. My first trait pickup in skirmishing is Pet's Prowess. Once I go over the pets in just a moment, you'll see why this 30% more damage on critical hits is just that much better. It is really just that much better than the other tier 1 trait choices we have here anyways. My next trait is Quick Draw. Short bow cooldowns reduced by 20%. Obviously this is a short bow build. Really, we're going 25 deep into skirmishing for Hunter's Tactics. Deal 10% more damage while flanking. This synergizes perfectly with Crossfire. With this build, we do want to always try to be on the side of or behind our enemies, so this is a very nice bonus effect here. And finally, for Wilderness Survival, my first trait is Shared Anguish. Incoming disables are transferred to your pet. This will definitely save you in a lot of situations. My next trait, Wilderness Knowledge, reduces the cooldown of our survival skills by 20%. We have 2 survival skills in this build, obviously Quickening Zephyr being the most significant one. We want this quickness up as often as we can get it, and this trait helps us do that. Here's a quick demonstration of the escape potential of the sword in combat. I've allowed this heavy golem to close the gap and enter melee range. Not good. I need to get away from him. I'm going to swap to my sword, use ability 2 to roll away, turn around, detarget, use ability 2 again to dash further away. As you can see, I put quite a bit of distance in between me and my attacker. For my first pet in this build, I have Moo. Moo is a jaguar. The jaguar has your basic cat abilities here. He's got Slash, that is his auto attack. He can get maybe 5 or 6 stacks of vulnerability off. Maul, not very impressive, a little bleeding damage. Bite is his big damage ability. And his active ability, Stalk. Now, this ability seems terrible just by reading it. Your pet gains stealth for 6 seconds. Why is this good? I have no reason to believe this would be good in PvP. But it's the little things in Guild Wars 2. It's the little things they don't tell you. After extensive testing, I've determined that this ability gives the Jaguar a 100% crit chance for the duration of his stealth, as well as 10% increased critical damage, roughly. So let's just send him in here. I'm going to give him quickness, I'm going to put him in stealth, and we'll just see how he fares against this heavy golem by himself. You saw those numbers, need I say more? This pet has amazing DPS.
Exhilarating!
It is. My second pet and favorite pet for PvP overall is Cat. Cat is a wolf. The dog's passive abilities in general are quite good. We have a cripple and a knockdown. The wolf in particular, his active ability, Terrifying Howl, is a 500 range, 2.5 second AoE fear. You can use this while you're in the down state to get people away from you. You can send it in to a Svanir or a Chieftain to fear enemies away from it so you can steal it. You can fear people off of points. There's just too many uses for this. It's just amazing. Now, another good option could be the Crichton Drakehound. His ability, same passive abilities that all canines have, but his active ability is a 2.5 second immobilize with the same range as the fear. Sometimes the immobilize might be considered a better choice. Certainly for solo play, using the first pet, using the Jaguar, you could start out with Intimidating Howl, and then while your opponent is immobilized, you swap to your Moo over here, send him in, stealth him, and have him attack and do tons of damage. Alright everyone, thank you for watching. Try the build out. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Comments and criticism are always welcome, so let me know what you think. You can also check out my live stream at twitch.tv/IQValor. And until next time, peace. I was totally gonna kill that. Dude, you like ruined my outro. Whatever, fade to black.